Hello all. Today on Let's Talk Real Estate USA, we have Marlisa Zebaida, co-founder of the Zebaida Group at Keller Williams Suburban Realty and currently running Life by Design Coaching. And before we move forward, remember to hit the like and subscribe button for more weekly content. Marlisa and I will be talking about team building, following models to build your team, the mindset to make it in this field, coaching, and much more. Here we go. Hello all, welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate USA, and today we have Marlisa Zebaida. We're talking about team building and investing in yourself. So, Marlisa is the co-founder of the Zebaida Group, a $40 million in volume team, platinum level and number one team in units at Keller Williams Suburban Realty since 2010. She was also a team leader in Livingston and Ridgewood, New Jersey, and currently runs Life by Design Coaching Company, a holistic approach of coaching to the person, not the problem. How's it going, Marlisa?
Great. Awesome.
So, anything else you want to include in that description?
I think that about covers it.
Cool. All right, so Marlisa, can you tell us a little bit about your history, though, in real estate?
Sure. And I think that everybody has a personal journey. I started in 2000, and I literally started real estate. I was a young mother of two at the time, and my mom had gotten her real estate license, and I grew up in a retail background from immigrant parents, so work ethic was always in me. And as a young mother, very quickly I noticed that staying home and eating bonbons and going to lunch with the moms wasn't me. Wasn't fulfilling. And my mom got her real estate license with Weichert, and I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. I'll do it. Got my real estate license, started it. My first sale was a for sale by owner, and I loved it. I said, ooh, I could buy furniture with this money. I could send my kids to camp with this money. This is good. I can be a mom and do this. Not too far into it, Craig, my husband's business went upside down. And I went from selling real estate so I could buy some luxury items and send my kids to camp to having to pay the mortgage and the car payments. So I had to learn really quickly and ramp up really quickly to go from a few extra dollars to a few $100,000 to cover what our expenses were. Mm-hmm. And I grew 10 feet doing that. And by the way, if you have any questions as I'm going through this, just, stop me and ask me. But
well, can we actually delve into your husband just for a second? I normally wouldn't do that, but your husband is connected to the group that you founded.
Yes, my business partner.
Mm-hmm. So can you tell us a little bit about him?
Okay, so Rob is, he's Israeli, also comes from an immigrant family, started in the textile business. And textile business, around the time that I had started real estate, it had to be in 2000, there was a big shift. Everything went from Europe and Latin America over to Asia. The whole market basically imploded. And, a lot of the people that owed him money overseas didn't pay. And his business just slowly went upside down. Mm-hmm. So he hadn't thought of coming into real estate yet. He had gone into a different business, and I had gone full-time in my real estate career. It wasn't until about 2007, I want to say, that we had made a decision for him to come into real estate. I'd gotten the opportunity to become a team leader, which, fast forward to my real estate career, Stephen invited me to become a team leader at KW Livingston and help launch it. And I said to Rob, I can't sell as a team leader. Take over my book of business. And he said, no. And I said, what do you mean no? He said, no. I'm like, what do you mean no? Like, yes. And after quite a few no's, and I believe we were in the shower when this happened, he finally said yes.
There you go.
And he jumped into the business, and he if you put talent in the right environment, Craig, they ignite. And all the other businesses he had been through and what he learned, when he got into real estate, he just took off. And it was immediate. It wasn't even like a delayed start. He did 3 million his first year, 6 million his second year, 9 million his third year. And day 3, and I was team leader of Livingston, he came to me and said, Mar, you need to find me somebody to do paperwork. I'm not doing any paperwork. I just want to sell. That's all he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and from there we took off, and he started paralleling the real estate business while I was a team leader. And at some point when my kids were going to high school, and it was a phone call from my mom who said, you're working 60 hours a week and your kids are going to high school. When the mom gives you that look, and she's like, they're going to need you more now than they needed you when they were in second grade. So I made a decision for me to step out of the team leader role, come back in and grow a team with Rob.
The interesting thing that I've discovered is that every team is different. So we have the Millionaire Real Estate, and I don't have the book with me. I'm actually at home because I'm quarantining because I have COVID.
Oh, you sound good, though. You sound like you're feeling well.
I know. Well, I'm overall better, but I lost my sense of taste and smell right at the end.
Oh, that's
anyways. So I don't have the book, but there it is.
With all my little pet notes and I used to teach out of this book.
So what I've been seeing, especially with talking to more and more people, I love talking to everyone. I don't care what brokerage they're with, I'll talk to everyone. Which sometimes seems to step on people's toes that I'm willing to talk to anyone. Oh well. But every team I've talked to has been built slightly differently. A lot of them will talk about the millionaire real estate approach, but then everyone is different. So can you explain to us your approach, if it was like the millionaire real estate agent approach, and if it was different, how did you realize you needed to deviate?
So we knew nothing when we came into real estate. Honestly, I had a retail background. Rob had a background in fabrics, and I knew how to sell. But when I was at Weicker and I was selling there, and I was doing fairly well. But if I tell you, Craig, that everything, all my notes, it was pretty much written down on an envelope in my car somewhere, very frantic, upside down business. So when I got to Keller Williams and learned that there were actual models to follow, and that I saw people actually following these models and doing big business, like business people, I got really intrigued by it. So, and Rob was the same. He came from businesses where there was no book. There was no guidance. There was nobody saying, do this, do that, follow this, follow that. So we were diehard models fans. We didn't know any different. And for us, we had done a lot of self-work. And part of the self-work was removing our ego out of the picture and surrendering what we think would work for what's been proven to work. And it was hard. It's probably the first lesson, being able to put yourself aside and just do what you're being told to do through the models. And we got a coach, and we were coached through the models.
Who was your first hire? I think if I remember correctly, I don't have the book with me, but if I remember, everyone seems to think your first hire needs to be, I need to go get a buyer agent and all these things, but it's not. What is it?
So for us, it was admin. We really needed to buy some time back on our worlds, because what happens is once you hit about 15 to 20 units, you start to see stars, because you're doing everything, the marketing, the sales, managing the relationship from contract to close, the inspections. I mean, there's 120 steps that are outlined, and it's all on you. So the first thing we did was we hired a transaction coordinator. And she was a local mom who needed to make some extra money on the side. And she was the one who was able to go and do a lot of the back end work that took a lot of our time. And so that's the first thing we gave up. But once we got that time back, we had to go back out into the market and go get more business. So it wasn't like we kicked back and relaxed afterwards. We're like, okay, now we have a salary. Now what? You have to go pay for it. So
Was she full-time or was she part-time?
So we started part-time.
Mm-hmm.
We started part-time. And then what happened was you start to grow, and then you grow out of that part-time necessity and you start to need full-time. And at that point, we had to take a lot of classes on hiring. We took what was then called RSTLM. Now is career visioning. We studied behavioral profiling. So we had to figure out, who we were, what did we bring to the team and what our vision was, and then hire into the missing pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So we really needed somebody to build systems, because once you're around 20 to 25 units, you need to build some systems and processes and checklists in order to consistently serve your client at the high level that you're committed to.
Yeah.
Without that, things fall through the cracks really quickly.
Yeah, for me, I've already discovered that the systems I'm putting in place, but also the things that I want to do take a certain amount of time. And that certain amount of time, I'm like, okay, well, I need to do it from this time to this time. And if things start running late, and I'm like, oh, like the first thing I'm going to hand off is going to be social media.
Yeah.
Like I spend an hour every day just trying to cross-post everything.
Wow.
Things like that, or just the simple writing the contract. I'm really good now. I can do it in 20 minutes.
Exactly.
But that's if I have everything lined up. If I don't, it's going to be 45. If I need to write 3 contracts, there's my afternoon.
And in today's world, with your buyers, you're writing way more than 1 or 2 contracts to get a house.
Mm-hmm. What was the biggest obstacle you had to building a team?
That's a really good question. There were a lot of obstacles, some that we knew and a lot that we didn't know and had to learn the hard way. The biggest obstacle was actually learning how to hire and how to manage people and to figure out what you wanted from that person. Because in each stage of your business, when you're just a launch agent, you need a transaction coordinator. You need to take one set of things off your plate. But then you get to the next level and you need somebody that's going to build systems. That's not the same person that's doing your transaction coordination. 2 different personality styles.
Mm-hmm.
One's very detail-oriented, linear, methodical, mechanical, systematic. So I think the biggest obstacle was hiring right. And we hired very not right for a while. And boy, we really, we skinned our knees. We bloodied our knees many times. We really screwed up a lot. More so than probably succeeded.
So you've been in the field for around 14, 15 years, right?
Yeah, probably a little bit more than that, since 2000.
Okay. Oh, 2000?
Yeah. Long time.
Because you said you had been doing it before you joined.
Exactly. Before I was a team leader. So I was team leader from 2000 to 2006.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was an agent at Weichert, 2000 to 2006, and then 2007 to, I think, 2010, team leader, and then 2011 to 13, team leader.
So every single job that you're hiring out has different skill sets that you need, et cetera, et cetera. So when you have your back end, your administrators, and then you have the agents. So what, for you, are you looking for in your buyer agents and your listing agents? And do you separate that, or are you looking for a more whole-rounded person who will be joining?
So it's completely different. So when we're hiring an admin, we're looking for somebody that doesn't want to really be in front of people as much. They're customer service oriented, but they're not the ones that want to jump on the phone and lead generate. They're the ones who want to make sure that every system is done well, you're efficient, your processes are working. We need the mechanical person in that role. So we're really looking for somebody like who's managed a doctor office, or our first hire came from the IT world. She was a tech person. She built software systems, and she built out our first set of smart sheets. I don't know if you've heard of smart sheets. It's like super Excel. Our entire business is run off that even till today.
Oh.
All of our transaction management, all of our lead generation, all of our tracking, and she built that out.
Now, so you don't use Command, or do you use Command?
We don't use Command. Command wasn't around when we built these systems, and
they work. So.
And they work. And I don't think Command's at a team level yet where you could jump in 100%. Some teams have. I just feel like with COVID, we weren't ready to take that jump because of what was going on, and we needed a little more stability before we jumped in.
Yeah. So you've talked admin. Now, what about agents when you're hiring?
So this is a great question, because when we're hiring an agent, I can tell you, like, on the 50,000 foot version, view, we're looking for somebody that is motivated with a warrior mindset, willing to do whatever it takes. We're looking for somebody that's emotionally intelligent, smart. When I say smart, I don't mean educated smart. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. I know a lot of people who went to Princeton that can't rub two nickels together. And I know a lot of people who just graduated high school and they're billionaires. So just smart. So hungry, humble, smart, learning-based, really learning-based, coachable, and flexible. They're not so stuck in their ways that they can pivot and change and morph and learn and grow. So that's what we're looking, on the outset. And then we go into behavioral profile. It's got to be somebody who, I don't know if you're familiar with the DISC. Abelson DISC, so behavioral profile. So there's a profile for a buyer's agent, and it's an ISC, CSI, and the D has to be above the, it's got to be above the 0 line. You got to have some D in there, otherwise you can't close. Yeah. We've made mistakes by hiring people that we really like that maybe just didn't have that. And when we go back to the models, it always came back to haunt us. In the end, when we did the autopsy, we were like, oops, yep.
So were there ever any moments where you just realized that with a certain agent, something wasn't working? Was there a tell? And also the flip side, was there a moment where a tell of an agent where you were like, this person's going to kill it?
Yeah. Yeah. So when you take the classes, career visioning, you learn what those tells are. Like, you really do something called Get the Book, and you really want to go into people's past and into their future and find out who they were and where they want to go. A lot of those answers to those questions will tell you who's in front of you. And the hardest part of the real estate business, Craig, is that a lot of people get into it and they think it's one thing and it's actually something else. And they get there and they're like, oh my God, I really didn't think it was this, and I don't like this so much. So I think that's the biggest obstacle when it comes to hiring. A lot of people would come to us because a lot of new agents came because they wanted training. I'm like, we're not a training facility. We're looking for somebody who wants to grow with a team. A lot of people wanted to come in, get trained, and then go off on their own. And in the beginning, you could see talent that wants to do that, and you hire them because you're so excited. And one of the things that I've learned about myself is like, oh, I'll change their mind. This will be so great for them, so great for us. We'll be the vehicle for their success. And it usually, when people say they are something or they want something, they do.
For a DISC profile, what are you?
Oh, what do you think I am? I rank, my highest profile is D, which is dominant, direct, competitive, wants to win, quick to anger. Their biggest fear is to waste their time. My second is I, which is the connector. It's the one who's social and likes to connect with people, which is the sales part comes into that. Yeah. I have S, which is stability. I'm a nurturer. It's not a high S. I would say DI is probably the biggest, and then S is the nurturer in me. It's the one that wants to keep everything flowing together. The togetherness part, the big hug, is the S.
Yeah.
And C, which is compliant, which is really all the technical skills and the, spreadsheets and checkbooks. I'm like so far down on that, Craig. I have none of that. It's like negative deficit.
So what do you think I am just from chatting?
So I definitely think that you're an I. I think to be able to perform and to be able to teach and connect the way you connect, you're very warm in connecting. You just have a magnetism about you. So I feel like you're an I. Um, I don't know that much more about you, but I would definitely say you lead with your I. Like, I don't know if there's C in there, but I definitely feel like there's S, and the D is behind it because I know that you're not leaving unless you get the order. Like, you do it in a nice way, not so direct, but you're getting it.
So actually, mine pretty much matched yours.
Really?
I'm
Wow.
just very good at presenting as an I.
I love it.
So I'm
So,
actually D, then I, S, C.
hey, high five. I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
So good. You want to know what Rob is?
What is he?
So Rob is an anomaly. Rob has taken that test several times, and every time he comes out above the line on everything.
Oh, interesting.
Everything. Maybe his C is a little bit higher,
Mm-hmm.
but his D, his I, and his S are all above the line.
Interesting.
Not tremendously, but a little bit.
Yeah.
Which makes him really like a superhero because he can flex his muscle in any direction.
Yeah. So going back to the structure of team building, what does the structure for you look like? Is it similar to the MREA? Is it like you like models, so I'm assuming it's based
Yeah.
right on it.
Spot on.
Okay.
Spot on.
So can you tell us like how many admins you have?
Yep. I'm out of, just for clarity, I'm out of the retail sales part of it. So I work the back end, the visioning, the business planning with Rob. I'm not involved with the team anymore. I stopped that 2 years ago to pursue my coaching certification. So right now you would have Rob as the CEO and also as the lead listing agent. You have Catherine Ciciola as our buyer agent. You've got Rena Lavorna, who is our operations manager, who is absolutely incredible. She came from operations in BMW, so this was really a natural fit for her. And she has a transaction coordinator or an assistant that helps her on the back end, so she can pretty much work on our systems and keep refining those while somebody's out on the field doing what they need to do. We have 2 VAs. One works on the admin side, and one works on the lead generation side. So you would classify her. Her name is Karen. She's out of the Philippines. So she's like an ISA, an internal sales agent. So we really look to run a small, tight ship and get the most amount out of everybody during that time.
So have you ever realized at any point, did you ever grow too fast, or did you always feel like you were growing at the right amount of time?
So you could probably relate to this because as your D, you never feel like it's fast enough. You always want to go faster. And, we were in coaching since day one, and the coaches had to slow us down. And I think not only the coaches, but I think Rob's personality style, I'm the gas, he's the brakes. So that was kind of the middle ground between the two of us. So did we go too fast? We probably didn't go fast enough if I'm looking at it with clarity, because there were a lot of times we had hired people and the pain of letting them go because they weren't in the right position and it really wasn't working out. We didn't do that fast enough. We tried to make it work, try to make it better, and try to avoid the pain of now having to pick up the pieces and now run the whole business by yourself. And we built up and crashed and built up and crashed, literally from 4 people down to just me and Rob. And when you're out of that space where you're not doing all of the, contract to close stuff and, contract management, transaction coordination, like you don't want to jump back into that once you're out of it. It's tough. So we definitely have been up and down.
So what would you say your biggest failure has been?
That question, and that's so hard because there've been like so many. And I don't look at failure as being bad. I look at it as an opportunity because every failure we've had, we've grown from. At the time, it really sucked. It was rough. We had bills to pay. This was not like I had a spouse that was working in corporate and we had a steady paycheck. No steady paychecks, mortgage. At one time, we had 2 kids in college at the same time. So game was on. There was not a lot of room for failure in our world. if I were to like make light of it, I would say one of the funniest, not so funny, biggest failure was we had hired an admin before we got our really good admin. She was working in a market center for several other agents and doing some work on the side, and we offered her full-time, and she took it. And she was doing a good job. And she got to our office, set up, and we look at her desk, and there was stuff all over. It was one big pile of mess all the time. And Rob and I looked at each other and said, what did we do? Because if that's the way the desk looked, that's the way her head worked, that's what was going to filter into our business. So I would say, I took a picture of it, and boy, I look at that picture and I say, got to get better at hiring. Got to get better at hiring. It was all pretty much on us in the end.
What has been your favorite deal so far with clients?
Yeah, I saw that one.
And that pops out.
It's hard because I haven't been in sales in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But, the favorite deal we had was we had listed a $7 million home in Cedar Grove. I think that was the highest selling home in all of the MLS at the time. And it had been listed and expired many times. And it was a very eclectic woman who lost her husband. She was like 40. He was like 75. He passed away. Yeah, he passed away. She had this gorgeous estate in Cedar Grove. Magnificent. And she had realtors telling her it was worth $17 million. And we were like, 10, 9, and then see what comes in after that. But we actually, the video of that and the planning of that and going through that process at that level was really fun. We had a good time with it, and we sold it. Mm-hmm. So it worked out. It was challenging. She didn't want to take any offer under a certain amount, but we got it done, and she was happy, and the buyers were happy in the end.
That's good. So what's a common myth about team building that you would love to smash?
I think a common myth is that a lot of people feel like they are control freaks and they're letting go of control. And I think that's a really big myth. I don't know if it's so much a myth as a misunderstanding, if you want to put it that way. Yeah. I think you have to be bigger visioned and look at, you're not giving up control. You are pushing your business forward by giving the things that aren't as important to somebody who is more qualified than you to do it. Mm-hmm. And I think you really have to just look at yourself and say, you know what? They can do that better than me. Rita can run our business, the back end of it, way better than Rob and I ever could. Our clients love her. When they go from Rob to Rena, they're like, oh, I don't want to speak to Rob. Just give me Rena. She's the girl. So I think that's the biggest misunderstanding, is that that person has to be you. That hire does not have to be you. It has to be the complement of you.
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing a lot of people that I've talked to had for like kicking their butt into gear is the idea of they're now having to spend the money that they're working really hard to bring in. Because like I know for me, it's like I know I have to spend money to make money intelligently.
Yeah.
Like you're not just throwing thousands of dollars out the door. You have to be smart about it. But in order to grow, you have these companies, these multi-billion-dollar companies, that they're just like, our business plan is that we're not going to make a penny for 5 years. We're going to burn through all this cash.
Yeah.
And then 5 years down the road. Now, this is not how real estate works.
Right.
But it's the idea of you have to intelligently spend to grow your business.
Yeah, and you know what? When I coach people on it and we talk about it, when you're hiring somebody, it's a 90-day investment because it's an at-will contract. So the first 90 days is a dating period. And if they're not living up to, and you throw a lot at them in the first 90 days, by the way, you throw them more at them than a person would be capable of, and talent will rise to the occasion and get it done. And that's how you know you have the right person. So if you're looking at it, it's only a 3-month salary investment, which is not a lot. And if you're paying a lot, you get to expect a lot. We did the other route, Craig, where we said, okay, we'll hire to a budget that was lower, and well, we got lower output. And then when we hired to a higher budget, we had no problem saying, listen, at this level, you should be executing boom, 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 boom. And if they did, great. But if they didn't, we did not feel bad about making a change and finding the next person.
Yeah.
You know, so I would definitely say that it's a 3-month investment. It's nothing more than that.
So what is one piece of advice you'd give to someone starting out team building? Like, very first thing you'd say.
Get coached. Get coached, get coached, get coached. It gets very hard to see the forest from the trees when you're in it. And when you're hiring, it gets emotional. If it's your business and your paycheck, sometimes it's hard to see the logic. And that's why you need another set of ears and eyes to sort of balance you out so you can make good decisions.
Wonderful. So Marlisa, you started off as a team leader. Well, you started off as an agent, then a team leader, then you built a team.
Yeah.
And now recently, in the past 2 years, you said you've switched over to coaching. So can you explain, number one, why you switched over to coaching? And then what was it about coaching that drew you in?
Yeah. So I think I'm going to start with the last question first, because when I became a team leader, I was coached by an incredible coach from MAPS, from the KW coaching company, a guy named Mike Bastian, who was in the CIA. And I didn't know that. He had been in the CIA. So his coaching skills were like way off, like incredible. And when I started with Keller Williams in Livingston, the market had gone upside down. It was 2007. AIG went belly up. You know, Bear Stearns went belly up. The world shut down. And I had gone from being a team leader to grow a market center to having to relaunch it, redo everything, restructure. And I didn't know what I was doing. And my coach really taught me how to generate myself in a way that I never knew that I could. Like, my butt was on the line. I was working for somebody else. I felt really obligated to do a good job. And my coach just gave, you know, he held the confidence for me. He directed to me to where I needed to build skill. He gave me perspective. He gave me balance. And what I loved most is that he was able to find my blind spots and call me out on it, which I love. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm goofy like that. That's me. Call me out on it. And then we worked on it, and I was able to move forward in a really powerful way. So that's the first thing that intrigued me about coaching. So I took his coaching, and then I was able, because part of the team leader position is to go out and coach your agents, right? That's your job. So I was coaching the agents. Everything that I was learning, I was just recycling and coaching to the agents. And I loved helping them. And I loved when they grew. And I loved when they became better versions of themselves. Even now, I have goosebumps when we talk about it. Coaching is a sacred space. It's a space where somebody reveals to you their vulnerability, their fear, their inadequacy, and you as a coach are there to help them move forward and leave that all behind and be more powerful in the world and ultimately be fulfilled. It takes a lot of trust to do that. So I'm a source for people to have the best that they want in life.
So it's interesting.
It's never ultimately the money you get from real estate. That my coaching helps them make money so they can fund something really big in their life. And that's where the pleasure comes in.
So it's funny listening to you because it's very much, well, coaching is very much an education. Coaching is very much being an educator. And I took a lot longer to be an educator than a lot of my friends who jumped right into teaching, like right after college. And I was like, no, I want to do the craft for a while before I teach it. And I felt that I, having gone through it, was a much better educator. So it kind of sounds the same for you, which is you went through all these things. You got to see the educators helping you along the way.
I did.
And then now you're able to now give back.
I'm able to give back. And as a team leader, it put me in the perfect position to do that. It gave me energy. It drove my day.
So what is the biggest thing you would say people, when they come to you, there's always going to be like the top 5 things that
Yeah.
I'm sure you're saying over and over and over. For me, when I was teaching voice lessons, it's always, okay, you gotta be breathing deep. You gotta drop your jaw's closed. It's always like the five same things. What are some of the top things you're always saying? I know you say them on repeat.
One of the biggest things I learned in becoming a coach was asking more questions than telling. And as a high D and a high I, it took a lot of training to really stop that, just cut it out, and just be there and create a space for somebody to reveal themselves. But what tends to happen is the things that I repeat come from the MREA. The first thing we do is follow a time block. Let's create the time block. No, actually, I would say the first thing we do is, why are you here? Why are you doing this? What does this mean for you? Right? And then we go into the business part of it. We go into the time block and we work out the week and what that looks like. And we just work on that mindset, skill, and habit of following the time block. So that's number one, because most agents come to me between 15 and 20 units and they're like exhausted and they don't know where to put their energy. They don't know where they're going to get the highest net benefit. So we really talk about finding the highest net benefit, what activities those are, and then we put them into a time block. And then from there we go into database. And we talk about database. We build out the 33 touch. We build out the 19 direct. We built out the 12 direct. Why are we doing this? What's our budget? What's the value of the consistency? And even if somebody's doing nothing, but yet we get to put out 12 pieces a year consistently, we're good. Because it's all about the consistency. So I would say those are probably the two things that we focus off the bat. And then we go into the metrics and the numbers of your business, the business plan, your conversion numbers, because your numbers will tell the story of what kind of training you need. Is it lead generation? Is it lead conversion? Is it writing the offer and getting the offer done? Is it managing the client's expectations? Where is it showing up in your percentages and numbers? It's basically the four models, the MREA.
What are three books you'd recommend, or three podcasts, or anything like that, three channels, and why?
So we can definitely do podcasts. I mean, I listen to the All In podcast. If you're familiar with Chamath Palihapitiya and Jason Calacanis, David Freeberg, David Sachs, listen to that every Friday night. And I do that just to get a global picture of what's going on in the world, what's going on in investments, what's going on in politics. Sometimes they'll touch on real estate. But the reason why I listen to that is because they're very centered and there's no spin on it. So I feel like, and they're really smart guys. They're all billionaires. So they're doing something right. Book-wise, besides MREA and Shift and The One Thing, which are like foundational, fundamental, I would say I loved Never Split the Difference with Chris Voss.
Okay.
Which is awesome. I have it here. Great learning tool. Awesome learning tool. I loved Rocket Fuel by Wickman and Winters. And that, goes back to the team building. If you're looking to build a team, you're going to want to read Rocket Fuel because it talks about the dynamics and the profiles of each pieces of what makes a really strong team. And then the third book that I would say is Essentialism by Greg McGowan. I literally just started this, but this book really, it talks about going from spending your energy in a gazillion different directions to putting it into one place.
Okay.
And that is whether it's in your personal life or it's in your business life. It's really a very powerful discipline to be able to master. I think that's probably the biggest challenge that people come into, what I see in coaching, is people are all over the place. They don't know how to distinguish what's the most important thing they should be doing. And therefore, everything seems important, and that is so overwhelming.
What's one question you wish I had asked you, and how would you have answered it?
So one of the questions that I kind of wish you would have asked me is, what's the flow of an agent's career? Like, what are the stages they're going to go through? And and what do they need to do to get from stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4? Did you want me to answer it?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, we find that when an agent comes into the business, they're personality based. Their business is based on their personality. And it's mostly with buyers because buyers don't require that much skill to work with. It's a personality based relationship. But eventually what happens is that when you're personality based, it's not enough. So you have to recondition your mindset and develop the habits and skills as a listing agent. So that takes a completely different level of skill and mindset, processes, habits in order to get to listing based. So now when you're doing the buyer based at a high level and listing based at a high level, the next level for you is business owner. And what happens at the business owner level, you become really familiar with the metrics of your business. Your business identity is all in the numbers, and you understand the numbers and the story that the numbers tell you. And you're able to pivot just by reading the numbers. Again, that's a whole level of habits, skill, and discipline, right? It's getting to know yourself. It's a whole new version of yourself. And then from business owner, you go to leader of your organization. So whether you have 2 people in your organization, 4 people, or 40 people, going from business owner to leader means that you're able to step out and you're able to grow others within the vision of your company. And you really get at a high level that you're there to become the vehicle for their success. And when you're the vehicle for their success, they're the vehicle for your success. And that's really where you learn to become coach, leader. You're a servant to your team at that point. And so I would say those are the levels that somebody would flow through. And you don't need to go through all 4 of them, but that's what's available to somebody, through building a real estate career.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect. Where can the listeners find you online?
So that's a real shame since I don't have an online presence. I would say Marlisa at zebaidagroup.com, Zebaida group.com would be the best way to reach me. And I'm always happy to do I always do a complimentary 2 or 3 coaching sessions to see if it's a match.
So I think that's pretty much it. We covered a lot of stuff today. Thank you so much, Marlisa, for coming on.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Have an excellent day, everyone.
You too. Thanks, Craig. Take care.
Thank you.